So welcome back. This is Dr. Kalam again, and we're going to finish up week 4, module 4, by discussing learning outcome 10.3, which is about managing employee turnover and retention of employees. So one caveat here is that we must consider is that not all employees have the same career plans as for themselves in our organization as we might have for them. So that's important to understand as we kind of begin this brief discussion. So turnover, what is it? It's a rate of, basically a rate of which employees leave an organization or a firm, and it's different among many industries. Some industries are faced with high turnover. Maybe hospitality industries are prone to higher rates of turnover than maybe architectural firms or engineering firms, and it varies greatly between those different industries, not those two in particular, but different industries. And the reasons why people leave, voluntary, are either voluntary or involuntary. And we're going to make sure that we understand the complexities of dealing with either voluntary, which is leaving on their own for a better position, or for other reasons, and then involuntarily as well, which is made to leave because we've got too many people working, we want to lay off people, we want a reduction in force, or we want to terminate somebody for other reasons. So we have to understand those things as well and how they affect our organization. Indeed, they cause a tremendous drain and can be a burden, especially in terms of cost. As we discussed previously, and as you've learned in previous chapters, the recruitment selection process is kind of timely and can be very costly as well, both in terms of hiring and getting people on board, as well as downtime with productivity, with people missing and other people catching up and doing other people's work. So there's a whole myriad of things that are involved in the turnover process that we want to avoid unnecessarily dealing with turnover too often. So let's talk about managing voluntary turnover. So we have to, one of the things we do is when an employee decides to leave, we might want to say, we probably won't understand too much unless we dig a little bit deeper into the reasons why they decided to leave. People who are dissatisfied, for example, with their jobs are more likely to leave, but sources of dissatisfaction can be huge and many and varied. Unless we kind of dig into it and understand why it is, then we won't understand why people are leaving. We might have issues in the organization. The manager should understand that retaining employees is a talent management issue, and a crucial one in many organizations. We don't want to lose talent that is valuable to our organization, that's been here, that's been through training, that has been competitive in making us competitive, or instrumental in making us competitive, excuse me. So for all of those reasons, we want to understand the best strategies that managers and HR and others in our organization who are charged with keeping people, what are the best retention strategies for those types of employees. So, and those strategies are, involve a multitude of things. Trying to formulate a particular retention strategy requires some serious consideration about all the different types of practices that are occurring in our organization. So, so let's talk about a comprehensive. Let's talk about, before we shift, let's talk about one important concept that I've always thought was often overlooked in textbooks is the concept of termination and how we determine when people don't belong in our organization. Years ago at GE, Jack Welch began a quest, if you will, to examine, amongst other things, employees in his organization who were destined to not do anything. And in every organization we have a percentage of people, maybe a small percentage ranging from 3 to 5%, 7% of people in an organization that I believe aren't congruent. They don't, their values, their work ethic, for whatever reason, they're not going to fit in the organization. Maybe they're totally dissatisfied. And in any organization, we need to understand how those people fit and what we need to do with them. Years ago, we used to try to engage them and use proper discipline and proper training and keep them as long as we can. And but the problem is productivity suffers when people aren't performing at their best. So to make it brief, the discussion a little briefer, and if you in the class we'll discuss this. Keeping employees for the sake of keeping employees is not a good practice. We need to have a succession plan. We need to be able to understand and predict when employees are bad, what we're going to do, and there are only a small percentage of those, and how we're going to manage the process to get our organization back up to full productivity or as productive as we can. So that's the end of that. So let's talk about a comprehensive approach to retaining employees, and some of the things we need to do to identify types of problems and steps that we can take to kind of understand employees leaving. So one of the things organizations do, good organizations, is to conduct exit interviews, and those exit interviews can ask questions in a very general way about why the employee's leaving, what made them leave, and it ranges from organization to organization. And these are for voluntary employees who leave voluntarily. So attitude surveys, hotlines to talk about things that are going on or went on or going on during the employment process. And a stay interview. We want people to, listen, is there a way we can turn this around? And those things. So once we analyze those types of data, some of the simple solutions may be, simple as providing pay raises, which is something I'm cautious of. But equity is an important concept in the workplace. Hire smart, discuss careers, transitions. Some people might feel stagnant in their organization, and we'll be looking for movement across or up in their organization, provide direction, offer some flexibility for special issues, use high performance HR practices, using counter offers if somebody decides to leave. Can we counter offer? And so none of these are prescribed, but they're all options that we can use once we analyze the reasons why people are leaving. Job withdrawal is the last thing we'll talk about, and it generally has been identified as an action which is kind of intended to place a physical or psychological distance between employees and their work. So, and as a result, you have absences, and then you have voluntary turnover, which is an obvious outcome. So we want to find out why employees distance themselves from some work. Is it because of the team environment? Is it because of some change strategy? Is it because of some personal reasons? So as a manager, you're not a psychologist, but you want to understand if there's a working issue that you can deal with that might help to alleviate some of the potential for good employees to turn over. Anyway, so that's the end of this brief mini lecture on Chapter 10, Learning Outcome 10.3. So stay tuned. We're going to move to Chapter or Module 5 for week 5. Okay, so stay tuned for the next mini lecture. Thank you.